Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a Monday Huddle Show from Mr. Sonny Folks of PressProsMagazine.com and Bruce Hooley. That's who we are, and we're glad to have you with us. We're a little tired, man. We worked hard at the state basketball tournament, had fun, not complaining, love it. I'm a little sad, Sonny, when I walked out of UD Arena on Sunday night. Even when I walked in on Sunday, I was like, wow, this is the last day of the tournament, the last day of the high school basketball season. I hate to see it go because it's been a lot of fun, just like football season was. And I know we always have another season around the corner, but I hated to see this one go. I really enjoyed it.
I hated to see the weekend end. I was glad to see basketball season end.
Yeah, you've been ready for basketball season to end for some time. Why? I don't know that you've ever explained that.
Well, the reason I was very much encouraged by the crowds that showed up at UD Arena. I thought they were proportionate. I thought it was a great atmosphere, particularly last night for the Division I final. I just thought that was a very good experience to be a part of. And again, our appreciation to the OHSAA for the fact that they do a pretty good job of making life good for the media.
Mm-hmm.
Steps and that ramp, notwithstanding, at UD. But, it was something that I greatly appreciate getting to see, because there's a lot of people who don't get to see it from our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting in the upper bowl or you're sitting 100 feet above the court, you don't see and hear everything that we hear. And I think that's sometimes the tale of the tape as to what the impression of the tournament you go home with. And I just thought it was, I thought there were some stinko games, as I don't think anybody will argue, but there were some incredible games as well. And I thought two of the games yesterday were incredible in the championship round. I thought the OG Taft game was a tremendous basketball game, competitive basketball game. And of course, I think the game last night between Pickerington Central in Division I against Centerville was good enough and compelling enough, given the quality of the athletes that played in that game and their futures and prospects for what they've yet to do, is good enough to play on primetime ESPN. They have a high school channel in which they play playoff football and basketball games from time to time. So, I was sad to see all of that go, because we got to see the best of the best in the state of Ohio that you typically don't get to see. And that's the one thing about baseball, football, and basketball state tournaments that intrigues me the most, that I anticipate the most, is getting to see the best of the best, because I really appreciate those kids' talent.
Yeah, and I thought it was an exceptionally good year for individual talent in the state tournament. I'm not sure about across the state, but a lot of the players that I saw play were really talented players that we're going to watch play at the next level. And I don't just mean, at a MAC school, but I think we're going to see a lot of these guys playing at Big Ten schools, and they're going to be playing in the NCAA tournament someday. So that speaks well to coaching in the state of Ohio. I wrote a column during the state tournament about officiating. I do think the officiating needs improvement. I don't want to harp on a topic we've talked about here before. You can read the column on PressProsMagazine.com and see what my beef is. I do think that I think it would be an interesting study to look at scoring in the state tournament since the advent of the three-point shot by like 5-year increments, and see if the games in 1990 were appreciably higher scoring than the games we have now. Tri-Village, 29 points in a state final. We were on board for a 40-38 final in the Division I game last night, until they both kind of got hot in the fourth quarter and the score jumped up a little bit. But, man, you don't see very many games where both teams are in the 60s at the state tournament, and I think that's too bad, because I think the talent is such that we could have that. And I like scoring. I appreciate defense, but I like scoring. And since we have a 3-point shot and we can't get to 60 points, I have my own theories on why that is. But let's talk about some of the games. The D1 game, let's start with that one because it's the most recent one in our mind. That's how you want to end the tournament, with a game like that. You don't want to end the tournament with a running clock game. You want to end the tournament with a great battle, and it was a great battle. Pick Central had control of that game. Centerville, like a true champion, would not go away. Put together a fantastic comeback, and Pick Central just had an answer for every time Centerville made a run at them in the fourth quarter.
The thing that made that game so impressive to me, I knew something about Centerville. I had seen them play once this year, and I knew their qualities, and I knew that the Cups kid is every bit as good as touted.
Yep.
Gabe. I know that Tom House is a fantastic shooter. Not the quickest kid out there. I was particularly mindful last night watching him play defense. I think he is going to be that prototypical shooting guard or a three in college. He's going to Florida State next year.
Yep.
He's going to score for them. They're not taking him there to run the 1-2-2 zone press. He's going to be out there to shoot the basketball. That was very impressive. But what really intrigued me was seeing Pickerington for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was jaw-dropping to me to see how good and how athletic they were. I know everybody was gaga about Sonny Styles because this is a football state and he's going to Ohio State and playing strong safety or something, may end up playing linebacker. He's 6'5" and 220, 225. And he's got the frame that can easily carry another 30, 35, 40 pounds and probably run a 4.5, 4.6. So, he's a fantastic athlete. But Devin Royal, and I know you and I talked a little bit about this on the sideline, and you kind of said, well, I'm not sure I see it. I saw it. That kid is strong as an ox. He is really a load around the basket to deny. And last night and against Ignatius the night before, they had the athletes to try, at least physically, to try to deny a Devin Royal. And he got his 20 points. And you got to give it to him. He may not look as flashy as Rayvon Griffith or some of the other talents that we saw in the tournament, but that kid is a great talent and has got a great future ahead of him at the next level. I just thought those two teams, and And I'll tell you another thing that a few people, when I say this, will appreciate. I looked out there. I'd never met Eric Kruger before, the coach at Pickerington. And we tried to get him on, apparently, on the show here with us tonight. I'd never seen his teams play. I know he graduated from Chaminade Julienne High School. I looked out there last night and I saw Joe Staley basketball. And a lot of people will know who Joe Staley is. He just retired from Chaminade a couple of years ago after coaching there 30 years. So if he played for Joe, he wrote everything down in a book and took it with him, because I saw Chaminade Joe Staley basketball last night, and I appreciated that. I recognized it, when I saw where he had gone to high school, and that made it fun and compelling to watch that game for me.
Well, I just think it's nice that we have two public schools in the D1 final with great fan followings. You cannot say enough about the city of Centerville and the way it supports the Elks. I get it. They won a state title last year and they didn't lose this year, and everybody in town loves a winner and you get on board, but that was fun to see. And the Pickerington folks really came out strong for Central. It was nice to have, we have 8,000 people in there for that game. It really felt like a big game, which was nice. So that was great. Gabe Cupps of Centerville, to me, if I'm going to pick best player I saw in the state tournament, pains me to say it because he's going to Indiana, but it's Gabe Cupps. He's just he's so good in understated ways. And by that, I mean, you don't have to have 20/20 vision to look out there and see a 6'5" muscular athlete like Sonny Styles, who has his emotions and the game always under control. That's what I love about Alex Styles, is how he's always under control out there. But Gabe Cupps is a guy who has the right amount of fire that I like in a player, the right amount of composure that I like in a player, the right amount of, I'm going to cut your heart out. We saw that when he dunked on Ignatius after the fan base was getting on him from the stands. And I haven't seen these kids that Ohio State's getting next year instead of Gabe Cupps. I sure hope they're good because I know he is. And to your point about Devin Royal, with bigs in high school, I suffer a little bit from an unfair slant in that I don't really look at them and evaluate them as high school players. I evaluate them as college players. And in college, in the post, everybody's strong. And so I'm not as sure about Devin Royal's ability to translate to an elite player at the Big Ten level as I am about Gabe Cup's ability to do that. So but Devin Royal, you can't say enough about how he managed his foul situation last night, how he delivered big baskets when Central needed them. Smart player. Took only one bad shot that I saw, and he made it. It was a three-pointer. So what are you going to do? Bad shot, good shot. It went in, and Devin Royal would have been the MVP of the championship game if they gave that award.
Well, to your point about bigs in college, you remember he's 18 years old.
Right.
It's hard to project, and this is my beef with football. I mean, we always look at these kids and say it's 3, 4, 5-star. He's this, he's this, he's that. Hey, look, they're 18 years old, 17 years old. When he's 20, 21, I'm not going to try to guess what he's going to project if he went to Ohio State or Michigan State or someplace like that. Honestly, it's easy for me to close my eyes when I saw him play last night and see him playing for a Tom Izzo. Given the guys that you have seen, who one of them is playing with Seth Curry right now.
Raymond Green. Yeah.
Raymond Green. I mean, honestly, when he was at not particularly big, 6'6", 6'7" at Michigan State, but strong. And you know that you don't get rats for mice. He was strong in high school, and he got stronger at Michigan State and got better. And I'm sure, given what I saw last night, that he's got a tremendous Royal does a tremendous work ethic. He's far from a finished product, and why would you not work hard to get to the next level, the next step of development and success?
All right, so our Division II champ, shocker, is St. Vincent St. Mary from Akron. I don't know how many years they've won it, but they've won 10 total. Division III champ is Taft from Cincinnati. So it's been a while since a Cincinnati inner-city team won the state title. Taft against Ottawa Glandorf in Division III. That was the tightest game, the state tournament in terms of margin. Ottawa Glandorf had an opportunity, but not really a great opportunity at the end of the game to tie it up. Their best player, Colin White, got off a 3 at the buzzer, off an inbounds play. Amazing that the best player got that open in that situation. But he had 0.6 of a second to catch and shoot it. So he couldn't really take a look at it. And then in Division IV, the winner is Richmond Heights. They did it without their best player, Josiah Harris. He injured his knee in the semis. They did not need him. They were able to out-physical Tri-Village. Patriots gave it a really good shot. Close game through 3 quarters. I think Tri-Village just ran out of energy or just got tired of being leaned on and couldn't quite hang in the 4th quarter. But Lane Sarver had some spectacular moments in that game, and we're very accustomed to watching Lane have spectacular moments. And some college out there is missing it on Lane Sarver because I've heard he has only one offer. It's not a MAC offer. It's not a Division I offer, and that kid is a Division I player, certainly at the MAC level, if not above that, at the A10 level. And I don't get it, but Lane Sarver could play for me if I was a head coach in the MAC. I know that.
Well, I think the thing about Lane Sarver, and this isn't necessarily fair, but it's real, is I think the Division I coaches look at who you play against night after night. Do you play against Centerville? Do you play against Pickerington Central? Or do you play against Ansonia or Mississinawa and teams like that in the Western Ohio Athletic Conference? It's no secret that you are known by the company you keep. And I think if you put him in a different league at 6'6", and with his shooting ability and his instincts for the game, tremendous athlete, obviously, because look what he has done in football there as a quarterback and how athletic and his skills to overall and how they go from one sport to the next. It's just with him, it's like flipping a light switch. Probably, something like Sonny Styles. But I think that has a lot to do with it, is what kind of competition have you played against? I think that hurt a couple of the kids from Anna last year, particularly the point guard that they had that was so dynamic in the tournament. Again, he's playing in a JUCO someplace, but again, he could have probably, against better competition, probably played at a higher level. The guard at Botkins last year, we loved him.
Yeah, Jaden Pretty Powell.
Jaden Pretty Powell. I mean, obviously, ask Richmond Heights about how good he was. And yet, when you play in the Shelby County League, that doesn't translate to coaches at Bowling Green or Toledo or Miami or places like that. So I think that has a lot to do with some of the kids that we see on a nightly basis, their consistency, obviously their skill, their athleticism. And you get to know some of these kids and they're achievers. They come from hardworking parents, good upbringing, community where expectation is part of being a part of that community. But again, who have you played against lately? That's coaches. I know enough of them in college to know they really hate to make a mistake, and sometimes they err on the side of caution.
Well, I'll say this: I got all those teams that played in the state tournament in every division in my head, and I don't think if he had gone to school there the last 2 years, Lane Sarver would be sitting the bench for a single one of them. I think he'd start for every single one out there because he is a dynamic player, a shooter, a driver, a defender, a great off-ball defender, and he's done everything Josh Sagaster's asked him to do. And he'd make Centerville better. He'd make Pick Central better. He'd make St. V better.
Yeah, and he's a remarkably good rebounder, too, for the fact that he doesn't play down low.
Yeah.
He's just got an instinct to be where the ball is or to be around the ball and get the ball. And that has always stood out to me. He always ends up with half a dozen rebounds in a game, and he really is not a low post player.
Yeah, good instinct. So anyway, let's go through. I made a list of my 10 best players at the state tournament, and I'm going to whittle it down to 5 because it's no fun to list all 10.
Yep.
You got to make a decision between 4 and 5, 3 and 4. So I'm going to give you mine in order. There are a lot of different ways you can evaluate them. You can evaluate them as college projections. You can evaluate them as high school players. You can evaluate them as what they'll be when they finish their high school career as seniors, because not all these guys are seniors. So I'm just going to give you my evaluation of these guys for how they played in the state tournament.
All right, shoot.
Number 1 is Gabe Cups from Centerville. Number 2 on my list is Sonny Stiles from Pick Central. Number 3 on my list is Devin Royal from Pick Central. Number 4 on my list is Colin White of Ottawa Glandorf. And number 5 on my list is Dalen Swain of Afrocentric. Now, I got 5 others on my list that are honorable mentions, but I don't want to steal your thunder, so you give me your 5.
All right. My number 1 is Gabe Cups.
Yep.
That's just, we've talked about him a moment ago, and he, again, I like this part of it.
Yep.
I don't care what sport you play. I like this part of it, and he's got Phi Beta Kappa going on for him. My number 2, your number 2 was Sonny Stiles. My number 2 was Devin Royal.
Yeah.
I just really like the cut of his jib, the way he gets around and plays and what he does. You said a moment ago to use the term understated. And I think he is an understated talent because he doesn't try. He doesn't wave his arms and say, "Hey, look at me, look at me." He's a worker. My number 3 would be a toss-up between Dalen Swain and Tom House. Tom House in Centerville. And I think because I appreciate the guy who can stand out there and stroke the 3, who's just, again, got this, knows where to be, knows how to be open. I think I take Tom House as my number 3. And Swain is a fantastic player.
Yes, he
No
is.
question about it. He's going to be.
House started 0 for 7 last night from the field.
But you have it. That's basketball.
Okay.
That thing does this sometimes in the tournament.
It does.
It's going to do that. And but the night before, how pure was he?
Oh, he's a shooter. There's no doubt.
Against Ignatius, and Ignatius, was loaded for him. So they came after him, and he was very good. He's my number 3. My number 4 would be Colin White.
Okay.
He was the most shocking player that I saw
Yeah.
in the tournament, because you look out there and here's this kind of I'm not going to say he is skinny, but compared to some of the players that were on the court with him, he looks skinny.
He's raw boned. He's a sophomore.
Sophomore, 6'5", a kid that looks like yes sir, yes ma'am.
Yeah.
Excuse me, though. Excuse me for getting in your way and preventing you from scoring or getting that rebound, because I know you really wanted it, but I just thought I'd take it. That kind of a player. And I liked his coach's comment yesterday. You give him another year to develop, because he plays split end in football and safety. And you give him another year in a weight room to develop with that shot and those instincts, and see him next year at OG. Boy, they have a lot to look forward to in Putnam County, up there with him. He's my number 4. My number 5, you didn't even mention. My number 5 would be Rayvon Griffith with Taft. Again, you think about yesterday against OG when they made that run. In the second quarter, they went on an 11-0 run and tied the score, actually went ahead. Taft called timeout, and when they came out, Ray Von Griffith came out with his hair on fire. He got him back into that game. They went on a 9-0 run. And you think about it in the fourth quarter when he comes down and hits those 2 threes. I mean, he shot one from the NBA line to really give them a boost when the game was hanging in the balance. And I saw him do that last year against Anna in the regional finals. Just a youngin' then, a little bit older now, junior this year, but he's going to be a fantastic college prospect to play at the next level. Now, there's some kids here that you miss. I didn't mention Sonny Styles. I just think Sonny Styles is going to play football.
Well, he is, but I was just evaluating him on the basis of basketball.
That's where he's going to make his fortune if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
And he's obviously, I think, devoted a lot of time to being the kind of football player he is. But honestly, for the sake of interest, those are my 5. I'm going to Rayvon Griffith is in my 5, along with Tom House. I mean, Tom House is that guy like a Gail Goodrich. You think about some of the great names of the past. Larry Bird, who was just a shooter, just knew where to be, how to play the game, instinct for it, where to be where the basketball is at the right time. He's that kind of player, and I admired his passion. Nobody hurt more when they lost last night, and I don't think anybody was more admired on the court, because I don't know if you noticed it, but Devin Royal and Sonny Styles both went over and put their arm around him, congratulated him on what he'd accomplished, where he's going next year in the ACC to play, and for the kind of career and the impact he's had on Ohio high school basketball.
Yeah, there were just a second or 2 left in the game when Pick Central got fouled, and I noticed down at the far end, House was there, and he obviously knows, because of the margin, that the run at a perfect season and a second straight state title is over. And Royal came over to him and put his arm around him, and I thought that was a really classy gesture on the part of Devin Royal. So here's some other guys that were on my list that I did not mention. I did not have House on my list, but I like Tom House, but there are just a lot of good players there. I had Rayvon Griffith was on my list. I want to know how Dalen Swain is up for 3-4 and then gets totally left out of your top 5. You said Swain and House were 3-4, and then you leave Swain clear out.
Swain is obviously more athletic than Tom House. Tom House is a more polished, finished product right now, and a little bit more of this because he's played longer than what Swain is. And that's why I pick him over Swain. That's why Swain's not in my 5 and House is. I saw you laugh when I said, I just like the cut of his jib, the way he goes about his business out there, and just looks like a guy that really knows where he's going next year and what's expected of him.
Well, I'll say this. House is not asked to do for Centerville all that Swain is asked to do for Afrocentric.
That's true.
Swain is Mr. Everything for Afrocentric. He is an unbelievable passer, penetrator, defender, and scorer. So I like him a lot. I'd like to see him in scarlet and gray. You asked me about all these guys. If I had my top 3 who could beat Buckeyes, Gabe Cup, Sonny Styles, Dalen Swain, because you got to have guards to win in the NCAA tournament. And if they could get those 3 guards, and I know Styles is playing football, I get it. I don't want him to play football. I want him to play basketball. Here's a name from the Wayback Machine on Sonny Styles. Is he Quinn Buckner reincarnated or what?
Oh, yeah. And I told you yesterday on the way home or out of the arena, he equates to a lot of guys like that. The guy, Charlie Ward, who played football and basketball at Florida State, and then it ended up, I think, playing in the NBA. There's another Quinn Buckner, Sonny Styles type comparison that you could make. Guys that are just, and in fact, I don't think that Bo played basketball at Auburn. But if you think, Bo knows football and Bo knows baseball, he's that kind of athlete that he was at Auburn. So, yeah, there's a lot of guys like Sonny Styles out there over the years that it's really hard to appreciate because you never see him play these other sports. It was a privilege last night to get to see him play basketball.
It was. So here's my other 5. I had Rich Rolfe from Centerville on my list.
Yeah.
Lane Sarver on my list. Rayvon Griffith was on my list. Sincere Harris from St. V was barely on my list because honestly, I don't get the fuss over Sincere Harris as an Illinois recruit. I get the fuss over Sincere Harris as a MAC recruit or as an A-10 recruit. I just can't believe there aren't 25 guys in the city of Chicago who are every bit as good as Sincere Harris. And he had a good game. And the other kid I like, keep your eye on this young man next year, Brandon Rose of Gilmore Academy. Brandon Rose wears number 23. Yep. Really elite shooter, slasher, elite player. And I sat next to a friend of mine who is a coach of another sport at Gilmore Academy, told me Brandon Rose's ankle was a mess in the state tournament that he injured in the regionals. If he plays like that on a bad ankle, I'd like to see that kid play on a good ankle because he really had 2 very good games in the state tournament.
Well, I'll give you Swain, Dalen Swain as a Buckeye, but if I had to pick 2 more that I'd like to see play for them, given what we just saw throughout this year and their frustration to shoot from the perimeter when a perimeter shot was needed, I'll give you Dalen Swain, but I would take Rayvon Griffith and I'd take Tom House.
Okay. Well, I know they're on Rayvon Griffith. I don't know how he feels about them. It seems to me a lot of people out of Cincinnati go to West Virginia. Obviously you also have now Sean Miller's back at Xavier. So who knows how much money you can make going to Xavier now that Sean Miller is there. And Cincinnati has a good coach too. So that'll be tough for Chris Holtman to get Rayvon Griffith out of Cincinnati because I'm sure Sean Miller will call in all his pals from the FBI wiretap to put Xavier up there. Way to go, Xavier. Way to hold out for the integrity, baby. All right.
For all we know. For all we know.
I heard the tape. My ears work, Sean Miller. All right. So how about, speaking of the future Buckeyes, how about the current Buckeyes, many of whom will not be future Buckeyes because they're done playing basketball. E.J. Liddell's most certainly done. Joey Brunk, Cedric Russell, Jamari Wheeler, Jimmy Sotos, Justin Arns, Kyle Young. I mean, they are like, last man in scarlet and gray. Turn out the lights when you leave the locker room.
Yeah, I heard somebody on 610 today, a radio in Columbus, right after I turned off 98.9.
I was going to say, you're listening to the competition.
I heard somebody reckon it to a cleansing.
Well, you know what? Yesterday when I watched that team play, here was the analogy that came to my mind. I used to own a 1997 Ford F-150 pickup truck, stick shift, flare side. I loved that truck. Bought it brand new, ordered it from the dealer, loved it. Now, kids, it's been a while because you know what Bruce Hooley paid for that brand new truck of the year Ford F-150 in 1997 with a standard transmission?
$8,000.
$19,900. Under 20 grand for a brand new truck.
Okay.
Ordered from the dealer. XLT. It had like all the options on it. $20,000.
And a stick shift.
stick shift because I wanted to save $1,000 on the transmission. And I loved that truck, and I drove that truck 185,000 miles. But by the end of the 185,000 miles, I wondered if it was going to leave me walking everywhere I went. I put a new engine in it. I did a lot of things to it. I kept it alive, kept it alive, kept it alive. Finally, one day it just said, that's it, no more. It froze up. And my neighbor who had worked on it for a long time said, this baby boy is done. And I remember calling some charity that comes and gets your junk vehicles, and then they have kids fix them up and they sell them for $500. They came and got it. I parked it in my yard. I towed it out to my yard. They picked it up, put it on a flatbed, drove it away at like 7 a.m. And as that truck was driving away, I was thinking, you know what? I love that truck. I'm a little sad that truck is gone, but I'm ready for that truck to be gone. And that is how I feel about this Ohio State basketball team and all those guys who've been here seemingly forever and never won squat. So love you. Had a good time with you. Went a long way with you. You took me places I never thought I'd go, but I'm ready for a new look.
Too much drama. I mean, you go back to the Mr. Iowa basketball. I don't even remember his name. I know he's at Marquette now. You
DJ
probably,
Carton.
huh?
DJ Carton.
DJ Carton. It started with him. It started with Washington. It started all these guys, happy, unhappy, issues. I don't know why. I'm sure it's not just relegated to Ohio State. You know, I'm sure every program in the country, Division I program, has its in-house issues. But it just seemed like that got ahead of game night or game day when they, over the last 3 or 4 years, when you consider all the people who came and went, left for one reason or another. I don't know. And I don't know. I think Chris Holtmann is a good recruiter. I'm sure he knows his basketball. There's a reason why he's been a college basketball coach for 20 years. But you know, there's horses for tracks, and I don't know if he's the right horse for that track or not. But you know, hey, look, 2 years ago they were saying the same thing about the coach at Iowa. And, you know, Illinois has had their issues of finding stability as a head coach, and you still don't like the guy who's at Illinois. So
for the talent he's got to not get to the Sweet 16 in 5 years, I'm talking about Brad Underwood. Is unbelievably bad. You have Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn and all the players he's got, and he can't get to the Sweet 16.
I'm just telling you that those jobs, and look at the expectations for Michigan this year. I mean, nobody had any higher expectations, and they have really struggled to get out of the blocks this year.
Yeah, but they're in the Sweet 16 now.
You know what, Michigan team? Yeah, they're going pretty good now. But I mean, throughout the season, you didn't know what you were going to get from them on a given night. So
here's the thing with Chris Holtmann at Ohio State. Chris Holtmann did a phenomenal job getting them into the tournament and winning a game the first 2 years. You got a couple options when you take over a program like Ohio State in the condition that it was with Thad Matta. You can come in scorched earth, chase everybody off, and retool, stink for 2 or 3 years, take advantage of the honeymoon you have because they fired the last guy or you wouldn't be there, and then you build it up the way you want it. He took a different tack. I'm going to maximize the best I can with what I've got. We're going to try to win right away. They did. And then when you do that, you raise the expectations. And all of a sudden, instead of going 10 and 18 for 2 straight years, you've gotten the tournament and won a game each time. And now people are like, well, we got in a tournament and won a game each time. Why aren't we getting to the Sweet 16? And then those guys cycle out. Caleb Wesson, Andre Wesson, Luther Muhammad, all those guys you're winning. Keita Bates-Diop, Jayshawn Tate, they cycle out, and you got to retool on the fly with the expectations you created. Also, let's build in. NIL has changed the game. Immediate transfer eligibility has changed the game. The transfer portal has changed the game. The game Chris Holtmann is coaching now, I'm talking about the ancillary stuff that I just mentioned, is a totally different protocol and paradigm for how you recruit players. So you got to give him another couple of years to see what he does with this group of guys coming in who are highly rated. I think they got 5 guys in the top 75. See what they do with these guys. Do they hang on to them, or are they DJ Carton, Alonzo Gaffney here today, going tomorrow? I I think Holtman's done, by and large, a pretty good job. Last year, I would have told you he'd done a stellar job up until they lost to Oral Roberts. This year was a frustrating year. I'm ready for all those guys to leave. I don't want Orange to take another year. I don't want Sotos to take another year. I don't want Seth Towns to take another year. I don't even want Justice Suing to take another year. Like, get out. Bye-bye. You're on the flatbed truck. We had good memories, 185,000 miles. I'm ready to change.
Think about how you'd have felt, though, if some kid would have ended up with that truck, fixed it up, and drove it by your house a week later, and there you go. I mean, reclamation projects happen every day.
It was no good to me. It was not going to happen for me. So
somebody asked me at the tournament yesterday, you guys talk about Ohio State basketball. Why do you never talk about Dayton basketball?
Because I don't know Dayton basketball. I don't watch Dayton basketball. That's my answer.
It's a pretty good question, and your answer is absolutely true. But they won 24 games this year with 12 freshmen on that roster. Now, yeah, some of them are redshirt, some of them are second-year freshmen, not maybe true freshmen, but they won 24 games this year. And, they got some people there like Malachi Smith, Deron Holmes, Kobe Elvis, some people there, R.J. Blackney, that are going to Mustafa Amzil. They've got some players there that I think are going to put them in the upper echelon of basketball for the next couple of years if they stay. Now there could be some kids that transfer out, say I don't like this, I'm not getting playing time, I'm not getting stroked the way I feel because there's too many bodies here for 5 spots on the floor. I don't know, but I think Anthony Grant has done a great job of assembling some talent there. If you can keep it there, and somehow they played through their inconsistencies early. Honestly, they lost 3 games. They lost to Austin Peay this year in the first couple of weeks of the season. You don't lose to Austin Peay if you're Dayton. But if they win some of those 2 or 3 games at the beginning of the season, to answer the question about why you don't talk about Dayton, if they could have been sitting on 27 wins and be in the NCAA instead of the NIT, where they lost yesterday in overtime to Vanderbilt. So, I hats off to Anthony Grant and Dayton basketball, because we were just there yesterday, and I talked to Bill Hoskett the other night. And I said, Bill, what do you think about Dayton basketball? I mean, you played at Ohio State, big supporter, a Hall of Famer at Ohio State. What do you think about this arena and Dayton basketball? He said, honestly, this arena ranks with St. John Arena. Great place, great atmosphere, great environment. He said, I've seen Dayton basketball. He said, it's hard to beat. He said, it's a lot different than Ohio State. He said, it's a place you really want to be on a game night, even if we're playing Rhode Island. And, but he said, honestly, I wish that they still played in St. John Arena. I wish they'd spend some money on renovating that arena. Add a couple thousand seats if you want. Make it the palace it once was and that people enjoy going back to. And he said, but he said, that's what I think of Dayton basketball and the UD Arena. So I thought that was an interesting sidelight. And it goes hand in hand with what Anthony Grant did this year, and it's the toughest ticket to get in Southwest Ohio.
Well, anything from the Reader Speaks before we get on out of here?
Yeah, we do.
This edition of the Huddle.
Yeah, we do. That was one of my Reader Speaks right there. It was the guy that asked me yesterday, who was a coach, by the way. He said, how come you never talk about Dayton basketball? Ryan wrote in to me over the weekend yesterday, and he said 2 publics, 3. He said 2 publics, 2 privates won. It was actually 3 publics, Ryan, and 1 private who won the titles. And he said, I know how you feel. I know how Bruce feels about public versus private. He said, does your attitude change any about public versus private, given the fact that 3 publics won and Akron St. Vincent St. Mary was the 1 private school or parochial school that won in the title? Personally, no. I don't care. I know that it causes great angst amongst a lot of people out there who say we ought to be playing in the public schools, people who are just like us. Now think about that, because I've heard people say that, use that very terminology. I want to play against people just like me, just like us. Well, I'll guarantee you there's some good basketball teams that played in the tournament this year. Not great teams, but good teams. Good teams. I think Botkins this year was a very good team. Obviously not a great team. Tri-Village was a very good team. Obviously not a great team. And to go out to a tournament setting like that and beat another team that's just like you for a trophy kind of leaves people like me and my generation a little hollow. And I hope you understand this. In my day as an athlete, and I think I would even speak for you. I know you were a pretty good runner at the West Liberty High School. It meant a whole lot more to me as an athlete, even in college, to play and be successful and beat University of Michigan than it did to play and beat Muskingum College or Otterbein or one of those schools that you played on Wednesday afternoon just to get tuned up for the weekend, the Big Ten schedule. I wanted to play against best. I didn't care if they were Catholic, Presbyterian, United Methodist, or Hindu. I just enjoyed really playing. And I'll tell you, when I pitched against Minnesota and Dave Winfield, the deck was definitely stacked. I don't know where Dave Winfield came from, except I know he's from the Minneapolis area. But that's the greatest baseball player I ever played against, faced in competition. And I didn't care. I didn't care that he was going in the first round of the major leagues and I was coming back to Piqua and working a gas station. It didn't matter to me. I really enjoyed that experience of getting him out. And that's how I feel about publics versus privates today. I know that there's a different standard in the private schools. They do not have to take everybody like the public schools do. That's why they call them public schools. But, you think about this. We have fought, I've said this forever, we fought wars to have the right to send kids where we want to do it, where we want to send them. For whatever reason, whether you send them there academically or you send them there athletically. And then think about this too, Pete, or Ryan, who wrote in and asked me about that. If the best trumpet player transfers schools, we don't give a damn about that. Or if the best math student goes from one school to another, you don't care about the math students. It's always sports. But there's more to it than sports. And I think, again, if a title is worth winning, it's worth winning against the best, regardless of where they came from or how they got there.
I understand your point. My point is, you made my argument into a little bit of a straw man argument, which means it's one I'm not really making. I don't mind playing against anybody, anywhere, anytime. As long as when I make a basket from behind the line, it's worth 3 points. And if they make it from behind the line, it's also worth 3 points. And that extends to how I put my roster together. So if you're going to allow a certain kind of school to put its roster together differently than you are going to allow a public school, that to me is introducing a different set of rules to the common competition pool for the trophy you're all competing for. I find it a little suspicious that Richmond Heights last year gets decimated by graduation. And, oh, look, a 6'7" kid from Benedictine happens to move into our district. And another kid moves in who, presto changeo, pops off the bench to give us a really good game in the state finals when our best player's out. You can transfer from private to public if you live in the district and you're immediately eligible. But if you transfer from public to private, you have to sit out the second half of the year because in the past, private schools have taken advantage of recruiting. I don't know that the OHSAA staff is big enough, but the real problem is they don't want to police that problem. There's some problems they don't want to police. They want to see no evil, hear no evil, have no hearings is their perspective on it. So I don't mind a private school winning a championship as long as they didn't miraculously get better with some kid from one school moving into play for their school. And you don't very often see it the opposite direction of somebody leaving a private school like Benedictine to go to Richmond Heights. Maybe those kids have lived in Richmond Heights all their life. I don't know. But I found it interesting that all of a sudden, after Richmond Heights gets decimated by graduation, a couple really talented kids from Benedictine move in and happen to play for them.
I'll add this. As long as you have AAU basketball, you're going to have this phenomenon right now that I'm going to call attracting talent rather than recruiting talent. Because there's nothing you can do to prevent kids from getting together forming a bond or a relationship and a conversation that says, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we all played together in high school, and think about how much fun that would be and how good a team we could be. Maybe we could even win a state championship. And with if you can find a guardian or somebody that you can move in with that makes it legitimate that's within the school district, say la vie. And this is what's happening. It happens from public to public school, the same as it does with the private schools. It's look. I would refer to it as attracting talent or collecting talent rather than recruiting talent, and it happens. And I don't know that there's anything really you can do about it. And to your point, and you just made this point, I don't know that there's anything the OHSAA can really do about it, because again, I say, hey, we fought wars to have the right to be what you want to be, where you want to be, and when you want to be. And they've only got 3 years to play high school basketball, so you have to make hay while the sun shines. And unfortunately, some of them are doing it, or fortunately, in their case, they're doing it.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Very good. That'll do it for our state tournament recap show. We appreciate all you guys joining us. Remember to get your entry in for the free monthly drawing for the Layman's $50 gift card, scrolling across the bottom as it has been the entire show. Send your entry to pressproscontest@gmail.com. That's all you need to do. Just email me. That'll be self-evident that you want to enter the contest. We give it away at the end of the month. pressproscontest@gmail.com. When you order online from laymans.com, use the promo code PressPros10. That'll give you a 10% discount. I'll let them know that you are a loyal Press Pros reader, which helps our relationship with Layman and makes us look like prophets, because we said the people in the Press Pros area absolutely love Layman's. So with that, congratulations to our state champs, Taft, Pickerington Central, St. Vincent St. Mary, and Richmond Heights. I did it from memory without looking.
Let me add this to our appreciation for all the people from Central Ohio. In the last month, and enough of that phone call, in the last month, that's probably somebody calling me to argue about what I said about public schools and playing where you want to play. But in the last month, who have followed the tournament on Press Pros, we see you. We know where you are, who you're following, and we really appreciate the support and the readership. And it kind of puts a little hop to your step when you go into the arena and you're doing that kind of thing. And there's a new audience out there who's really watching, reading, and appreciating. And so shout out to you people that who have discovered it, the coverage, and write in to say how much you appreciate Steve Blackledge and Bruce Hooley and the cast and Julie McMackin-Wright and all. And we appreciate you.
We'll end the show tonight with a question from Keith Brooks. I did not Google this. I think I know the answer. He wants to know, without Google, who's the only team to win the NIT and the NCAA the same year? I have my answer. Do you want to make an answer to that, Mr. Colts?
Oh, boy, I bet you that's an old stab, because Keith Brooks is kind of an old himself. So, no offense, Keith, but
Keith, I'm going to say that's CCNY, City College of New York.
I would not have come up with CCNY, but somebody from that era, I maybe would have said Providence or somebody like that. So
I don't know if Keith is still watching, but he can let us know next week.
If he is watching. He's watching.
If we were right or wrong on that. He's not getting to his keyboard fast enough to let us know. So we can Google it, or you can Google it if you're curious. But I'm going to say CCNY because that sounds like a 40s or 50s phenomenon to me.
City College, New York.
With that, we'll thank you guys for joining us. We'll have this up on the Press Pro site tomorrow. You can watch it on the replay always. Patronize our sponsors. Thanks to Layman's. Thanks to you for watching. And by the way, you failed to mention yourself in the great work from the state tournament, because my daughter today was marveling at your picture at the end of the Antwerp Tri-Village game, where you got the ball on the kids' fingertips, Jagger Landers. You got Justin Finkbein, I think, rushing the shot, and you got the scoreboard lights going off in the background. I don't know if you enter any photo contest, but if you do, that one ought to be the shot you enter.
Yeah, don't have time. We have Buckeye baseball against Wright State tomorrow, so life goes on. Oobla dee, oobla da.
Oh, look at this. He says, Keith Brooks says he is not old, but I'm correct. CCNY. Very good. Well, thank you. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate Debbie and all the rest of you watching. With that, we will do what we do most nights, and that is say, Truman, go to bed.
Good night, everyone.